We are what we call a digital account provider. So we provide what are akin to bank accounts or current accounts, but we call them digital accounts. And we provide those in sterling and euro to a range of businesses, corporate clients, platforms, and some personal customers as well. We're also investors in a number of early startup companies, both here in Ireland and in the UK as well. We have about 6 or 7 active investments at this stage that we're working with as well. I'll just talk a little bit about maybe the background into FinTech and some of the changes which we would see in the market. And you're probably aware that FinTech is an area of a great opportunity right now. There's a lot of money coming into the sector and a lot of people investing in the sector. And sometimes it's to work out what your business model is within the FinTech community and within the FinTech ecosystem. It can take a little bit of time and a little bit of thought, perhaps. One of the biggest changes that we would perceive right now is changes in the regulation and changes in the way in which companies, new companies, can come to the marketplace. So there are numerous different regulations which have come into effect and are coming into effect over the course of time, which are all really driven to increase the level of competition within financial services. And certainly at a European policy level, the feeling would be that there isn't enough competition within the marketplace, and that in order to bring competition into the marketplace, we need to see, if you like, a wave of new entrants come into the sector. And so the legislation has embedded in it a real desire to implement and to bring in more competitors and more competition into the provision of financial services. Now, you can imagine that regulation like that, which is done at a European level, takes a long time to take effect. And it takes a long time to write that legislation and then for that legislation to be discussed and then implemented. And so it was earlier this year that the second Payment Services Directive took effect, which opened up again more opportunities for more firms to, if you like, be involved in the payment services and in the account provision services, the card businesses, where up until this point, perhaps they couldn't have been involved, or they might have had to seek a license that would have been a lot more complicated than that which they needed to do for their own particular business model. The other desire behind a lot of that legislation is to enhance the security and also to make sure that the consumers and that businesses and the users, if you like, what I call the payment services users, are getting fairness and are getting transparency with regard to their consumption of the financial services products. So you've all seen, hidden fees and fees that are not transparent and fees that hit you maybe later in the, calendar because of something that you transacted last month or something like that. So again, this legislation is driven to try to eliminate that and to make sure that there is full transparency, to make sure that there is very clear, statement of fees with regard to what it is that people are going to pay, and to try and make sure that the security levels then are also enhanced. So to try to make sure that the manner in which you access your account, the manner in which you access your card transactions, the manner in which you authenticate yourself to the financial institution that you're dealing with, that also should meet a certain number of minimum standards. So all that legislation, sometimes people will look at it and kind of say, it's a burden and it's a pain and you have to be now compliant with this new legislation. But the other way to look at it is that you can now go for and you can now acquire licenses from your regulator to do things that up until this point in time would have been very complicated and very difficult maybe to do. So there are new definitions emerging into the marketplace of new payment service providers, typically called what we call payment initiation providers and account information providers. So people who will be able to give you an application, and with that application, you will be able to access information that is in your bank account via that application. The way I think of it is it's like any other kind of app that you have on your phone that you use, that if you're using, Spotify to access your music that you have on a server or whatever, or something on a playlist, it's still the same music. So your account might be still with the financial institution over here, but your access to that account is going to be different. So what's happening in financial services right now is that we're splitting out what we call the access layer and the actual service provision layer into 2 different products and 2 different companies potentially. So I can use this app that I have here, maybe it's Fire.com, and in due course I will use the Fire.com interface to access the transactions that I have and the data that I've got in my Bank of Ireland account. And I can use Fire.com to initiate a payment from my Bank of Ireland account, from my NatWest account, because that's what this legislation allows for, and that's what the legislation defines as a new provider in this sector, assuming that Fire.com is, of course, appropriately regulated to be able to provide those services. The other big change, I suppose, that it's coming around is it's the Brexit word, and it comes up time and time again, and it is the financial services sector is one of the sectors that is having a really traumatic experience right now because of Brexit. And Brexit is having a very profound effect on what people are doing. So in other words, in the UK, you've got a huge financial services sector and a huge financial services system. And that the UK is part of what's called the geographic definition of the SEPA region. So SEPA is the European, the euro payments area, right? And so even though in the UK they've got sterling and not euro, what's happening over there at the moment is that UK banks have access to the euro clearing system. And there's a huge amount of uncertainty now as to what's going to happen, be it next March or be it at the end of 2020 when the transition period ends. And with that confusion, there's a great opportunity. So with that confusion, we're seeing a lot of banks in the UK not knowing how it is they're going to service their customers from a euro perspective and what the implications are for them with regard to that. So what's happening is that in itself, even though it's a big problem for industry, it's actually creating opportunities, and in particular for smaller firms to maybe step into the breach and say, well, actually, I can actually help you out here because I can nimble enough and I'm small enough and agile enough to be able to give you an account. So the account that we sell most today, our biggest seller is selling euro accounts in the UK. So we will sell more euro accounts every month in the UK than we do anything else because companies in the UK want to have access to the euro accounts that we provide, right? In the same way as we provide sterling accounts to customers that are here. So it becomes, sometimes these things, if you think of them the right way, they can become an opportunity perhaps for you to do more business. And then the other thing I'd say is that the customer expectations have really changed a lot. So many of the businesses that we're dealing with, we've about 2,500 businesses now who are using Fire for their transactional payments and for paying money in, paying money out in sterling and euro, getting bank transfers, paying staff, paying suppliers, whatever it might be, getting their invoices paid in, or having the settlement from their card acquirer when they've got a terminal, whatever, being lodged into a Fire account. And we're seeing that the customer expectation around that is very different to what it would have been before. So in other words, customers, when they see that, there's an immediate expectation that if I get a lodgement into my Fire account, I expect to be able to see that come up on my phone instantly. I expect to be able to get that data from the Fire account and to be able to bring that into my systems in real time. I don't want to, as somebody said to me about a year ago, I don't understand how when I come here and Google Maps will tell me, do you want to check in at the RDS, and Facebook will say something to me at the RDS, and yet when I receive a lodgement into my bank account, I still don't know until I actually log in to see if the lodgement has arrived. So none of this actually makes sense from a customer's perspective, and more we see the small business owners and in particular SMEs, they think and they behave more like personal customers now than corporate customers, right? So in other words, the customer expectation is that I want to get access to this account and the service that you have. I want to get easy access to it. I want to be able to sign up quickly. I want to be able to upload my documentation. I want to be able to open up new accounts literally in real time. I don't want to have to wait because you've already done the validation on me. You know who I am. So the customer expectation, if you like, was another big change that we would have taken into account in trying to build what Fire was and what Fire was going to be. And all the time we had these arguments about, like, if a business customer has an account with us in sterling and maybe another account in euro, how long should it take for them to open up a third account? And the decision that we made was it should be instant. It should be real time because we know who that customer is. So now we added the feature that you can just go add account, sterling, and up pops a sort code and account number on the screen. You can put that, give it to your customer right now on the phone when you're talking to them. They can make a payment into that via faster payments in the UK. And as soon as the money comes into the Fire account, our API will call you and send you the data about who's paid you, all in real time. So that's the level of kind of expectation that we felt customers would want with regard to the real-time nature of banking and transaction services and payment services as things go on. So these are all the things that we see that are changing, and you got to try and these days I find that certainly within financial services and payments, you've got to try and build something, but you've got to try and understand the attributes of what you're building and how is this thing going to be different from the other things that are out there, because we in Fire are selling something that you can get from many other institutions. You can get an account with any other bank. So how do we make it different was really important for us, and what do we need to do to make it very different? So all these changes, as I say, they present, in my head anyway, some great opportunities for companies to come into the sector and for companies to participate at some stage in that process of payment. So in other words, we have a number now of lenders who use FIRE as their fund management, as their fund kind of distribution platform. So in other words, there are people out there, say, who are financing and lending to SMEs, and what they do is they use FIRE and they create multiple accounts in FIRE, and then all the repayments can come in to those different accounts, but it's all organized and all structured, and with the API, it can all be kind of automated, if you like, for those lenders, right? And it's asset-based financing as well for invoice discounting houses. We've got 3 of those gone live recently. So what that means is that they're using FIRE as a platform, really, to be able to manage the disbursement and the collection of funds from their customers. Now, that's not an opportunity that we would have identified when we started the journey, but as we went through and talking to people, we saw that was a good opportunity that existed. So you start to see, when you send your ship a certain direction, you do start to pick up other opportunities that maybe didn't occur to you as you went through that process. And this is what we've all been used to. As customers, we've been used to dealing directly with our banks for the last decades. And what's really changing is that there's this new layer between you and your financial institution, which is emerging, which are these service providers I spoke of. So people who will offer you, be they accounts, or be they payment services, or be they card services, that will sit between you and the ultimate financial institution. And more and more of these are coming onto the market and will come onto the market over the course of the next year or two. And this is why the investors are putting a lot of money then into fintech firms right now, because they see that this disruption is now becoming much more real. A friend of mine described it recently as saying that we're at the end of the beginning, if you like, of this part of the journey. So it's really now that the building blocks are kind of coming into place and the building blocks are there, that it's now ready for more disruption, if you like. And this is what customers would say to us all the time. I don't understand why when I move money from one account to another, it disappears for a day or two. I don't understand why it takes weeks to open up an account. I don't understand why, if I'm an Irish business based in Dublin and I want to transact in sterling, that you're telling me to go to Newry to open up a bank account. I just don't understand why that is the case. I want to open up the account now in sterling and I want it here. I don't understand why, as I said before, why I don't get alerts when I get paid. I get alerts to my phone when any member of the staff uses a FIRE debit card for their expenses, right? And I can instantly block that card if I so desire, right? And I can track exactly where they're at. I was talking to somebody down there whose kids are using FIRE, and he's able to track what their kids are doing using FIRE. So there are, like, that real-time nature of the communication is really important. But the other thing that is, we found that, bizarrely, a lot of small businesses were not getting a debit card, but the banks were kind of pushing a credit card on them, and then those credit card transactions were in different systems and put over here. But actually, what I want is a debit card. I want to open up a new account in FIRE, put some money into it, and link the debit card to that account. And maybe when that project is over, I want to link the debit card to this account. And I want to order another 2 cards for somebody else and open up another 4 accounts. All of that is possible, and all that's there. And it gives people great flexibility to be able to do stuff within the thing. So what we're doing is we're taking the core account, and the way we think about it is that we don't just give you a payment service. So we don't just do, sterling transfers, bank transfers. What we do is we say there's payment services, data services, and account services, and that's what we give you, a whole range of services that sit on top of the core account that you have with FIRE. And I'll tell you how we're getting on now. Basically, there's a number of markets that we're selling to. We've about 6,000 personal customers. We don't push the personal product as much. We leave it there, and there's a couple of hopes for us into the future where other people might perhaps be more interested in pushing that personal product than we are. But nonetheless, it's there. It's a good product. And then it's sterling and euro. And then obviously from a business and corporate, that's our main focus. Our main focus at the moment is selling to business clients and corporate clients who want to use the FIRE platform in order to get up and running. What we've got up and running in terms of payment services in the middle, you can transfer money into FIRE and out of FIRE from any bank in Europe. You can transfer money in and out of FIRE from any bank in the UK. So all that's operational. You get a sort code, account number, an IBAN with every account that you can have. You can have multiple accounts. You can do your FIRE-to-FIRE transfers. You've got debit cards, and you can order multiple debit cards, and you can link those debit cards to the accounts. And you can now do FX, and you can do the FX 24/7, 7 days a week. So you can literally move money from your sterling account into your euro account and take it out of the ATM. And there you go. The money's there, all in real time as well. And we have this idea of the payment requests. I was saying there's one school, using this right now. So it's a closed system because obviously you have to have fire in order to be able to pay. But obviously if you think about what's coming down the line, we know that we'll be able to open up and to be able to initiate payments for people from any bank account in Europe, basically into fire. So it paves the way for further development as well. The data services are good. The data services allows you to get back data from your fire account and then also to get data from us as things happen on your fire account. And we've recently done integrations then into some of the major accounting software packages as well, so people can get the data straight in. The payment initiation API is really designed for corporate clients who put a lot of money into fire, and then what they do is they will stream in through a batch process, if you like, or real-time requests to disperse that money out to different payees that they have, or people that they owe money to, in different jurisdictions, okay? And it's an automated, so there's no file uploads or anything like that. It's a proper machine-to-machine communication through the secure API that we've developed. And all that uses your mobile phone to authenticate and to authorize the transactions as well. And then on the account side, as I say, it's all multi-user. There's loads of limits and instant settings. And there's for the business owners, there's a very nice mobile app that comes with it now as well to help them with regard to managing the accounts. So as I say, we've got about 2,500 customers at this stage who are business customers. We've about 6,000 personal customers, and we've about 5 or 6 platforms who are, if you like, large corporate clients who've gone live using Fire in a multi-account fashion to disperse and to manage the flow of money between themselves and their customers. So we see it as as I say, to wrap up, within the financial services sector, there's great opportunities right now. Not everybody is certain about the exact way things will turn out. So if you're like, some of the models I think are still trying to be determined. And we would have come across, as I say, opportunities along the way that we didn't anticipate when we started the journey. But now as we're developing the product, and the thing that we're trying to do is to try to be very, very close to the customers and try to understand what other features and what other functions would you like on this. And as I say, but the big lesson for me over the last while has been, you're making something that I can get from somebody else, from a bank. So what you need to do is to make it in a very different way. So we've concentrated on making it easy to access, making it really transparent about the fees. So we show you the fee at the time of the transaction. There's no setup fee, there's no monthly fee. And every time you make a transaction, the fee comes out so that there's no bill shock at the end of the quarter. So it's really transparent about the fees. And then we make it as safe as possible by bringing in the mobile phone as well as the desktop application for businesses. So when a business is actually logging in online and making a payment, the mobile phone of the CFO can be sent a message that he has to authenticate in order for that payment to happen and so on. So it helps with the security of the whole setup. So that's where the focus is. So it's been good to talk to you, and thank you very much.